Marvin Hamlisch. What can you say about Marvin Hamlisch? These are the awards that he's won. He's won an Emmy. He's won a Grammy, an Oscar, Tony, a Pulitzer Prize for his work for A Chorus Line, the Broadway show A Chorus Line, just songs that will live forever.
Right.
And also he's won a Golden Globe, and he's up for another Golden Globe Sunday night for his new score for The Informant, which is easily one of the most unique, fun, and infectious scores that we've had in years. And as we discussed in this interview, just perfectly mirrors the journey that character takes. He's an amazing composer. He conducts very prestigious orchestras across the U.S. And, credits like The Way We Were, another song that will live forever. The early comedies of Woody Allen. The Sting, he made The Entertainer a great hit. Ordinary People, Sophie's Choice, on and on and on. So it was a tremendous pleasure for both of us to chat with him. And here is Marvin Hamlisch talking about his great career, his feelings about film composition, and his new score for The Informant. This new score for The Informant is incredible. But this is your first, if I'm not mistaken, your first feature film score in many years.
Probably about 10 years.
Yeah. Was that a kind of a self-imposed hiatus from film scoring, or?
Yeah, a little bit, yes. And I was very busy on other projects and things. And I was just so flattered when I got a call from Steven Soderbergh that there was no way for me to say no to someone like that. And so it was a wonderful experience.
Did you respond to it right away, the material? What kind of drew you to it?
No, I didn't respond right away, actually. What happened was that after I saw the film, and saw it a couple of times, and he and I, of course, spoke, and one of the things he told me was that it was very important that he wanted everyone in the audience to know this is funny, this is a comedy, don't take it too seriously. And it took a while to figure out the approach to this film. And finally what happened was about 2 weeks after I saw it, and I was working on it even though I hadn't written a note, it dawned on me that if a person is bipolar, as this protagonist is, that would mean that what he shows to the world, the vibes he gives out to the world are not, how should I say, are not the ones that he actually feels, because he's seeing things, topsy-turvy. And that's when I got the idea of really doing everything opposite. So I give him a happy-go-lucky theme, even though he's not happy-go-lucky. If he supposedly is the good guy, then the bad guys are the FBI. Meaning everything became totally the other way. I mean, the score itself almost acts as the brain that he has and the way he's thinking in his mind.
You can definitely hear that in the score, and I understand that the bipolar aspect of that character played an important role, as you just said, in crafting the score. What's interesting to me as a film composer, you are an interpreter of the film and of the characters in the film that are represented by your music, but you came in when this film was already put together. Is that ideal for you, or would you prefer to come in during the script phase or the pre-production phase?
No, that's perfectly ideal. That's perfectly ideal. I mean, I think a lot of people have the notion that somehow the music is done first or something like that. It doesn't work like that. It works that the film is first made, which is, I think, right. I mean, it's got to be on the film. You've got to have your story. You've got to have your film. You've got to have something that says this is what this is. And at that point, I come in and look at the film, and then start to slowly but surely, get ideas. And of course, if you're working with a very strong director, particularly a director who knows what he wants, it's very helpful.
Right. And you work with great directors, and including Soderbergh, of course. But what is that relationship you're looking for? What is the ideal for you, director-composer relationship?
The ideal is that the director kind of tells you in big. It doesn't have to be in minutia. It doesn't have to be in little tells you generally what he's looking for, and as you go scene after scene, he kind of gives you a feeling of what he feels would be right. Now, that just helps because at least you're trying to get on the same page, and that's very important. And in the comedy, you have to be very, very careful because you don't want to in any way hurt the laugh. You want to enhance everything. You want to make sure that you're heightening emotions, not in any way stifling them. So that's what you really look for.
Well, all the composers that we interview, we've welcomed many composers on the show, and a running theme seems to be that comedy seems to be the trickiest of all the genres to score for. Do you find that that's the case?
Right. That is true, and I'll tell you how you know that. Many times a director, particularly with a comedy, will preview either certain scenes or the whole picture, and you'll know where the laughs are. You'll know because you'll be there. You'll hear the audience laugh. Now you put in your music. Now, if they don't laugh as much in a specific scene that has music, it means your music has done something to hurt that laugh, and that is dangerous. You've got to be very, very careful in music. One of the things that I've always found with a laugh in a film is not just what kind of music it is, but where you put the music. Sometimes you can put the music in the wrong place and stop a laugh from happening. So it's the trickiest type of scoring I think that you get.
I would think that I'm not quite sure if you did this on this film or not, but kind of the screening process would be important for a comedy then to gauge the reaction of your music.
Absolutely, yeah, no question. It's very important because you get a sense of what the audience is actually, what they're actually feeling. I mean, it's in comedies. It's the one good thing is an audience pretty well tells you if it's funny or not because you're going to hear laughter. Very different than in an adventure film or in a love story. In a love story, you're hoping that people are crying at the end. In a comedy, you are almost able to tell scene by scene how you're doing and if the laughs are scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious of The Informant, though. It's such a, you want to say a brave comedy because for the first half, you're not really sure about the character. And I think there's a light switch goes on the second half where you realize that he is like almost like a really demented version of Don Quixote. I mean, this guy's really delusional, and I think your score perfectly complements that. I mean, definitely evokes that for the whole film, but especially in the second half.
Well, thank you very much. In fact, I met the man, the actual man. He's still alive and actually doing very well. He came out of prison. He got on his medication. He built his life. I met him and his wife, and he was very happy with the film. He really was, and he said that he thought that the score was very strong in terms of the way he was feeling. So I was very happy to meet him and know that he came through all this,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Now, you kind of fell into film scoring by sheer chance, if I read correctly.
Right.
It was never really a consideration of yours, right?
It wasn't the first thing that I wanted to do. I was a kid in New York City, and I loved Broadway. And all I wanted to do was write a Broadway show, but no one was handing me anything to do. And I was the rehearsal pianist on the show called The Funny Girl with Barbra Streisand, and I got a phone call from someone one night asking me to play at a party. And the party turned out to be for the producer, Sam Spiegel, and he had just produced On the Waterfront and Lawrence of Arabia. And I went over to play this party, and out of this party, I got my first film score.
And that was The Swimmer.
Right.
Right. And Jerry, you won an Oscar.
Yeah, actually a couple. This is like one of those, I think one of the first and one of the best of the movies about suburbia. And I love the music for it. But I wanted to really know, did you ever get to meet John Cheever, who wrote the story that it's based on?
No, I did not.
Okay, I was just curious because it's a fascinating character of the 20th century. And the Swimmer is just devastating. The last 15 minutes. Where Lancaster's running and everything, and the music is just, it's a heartbreaking film to watch. Heart-wrenching, I think is the right word. And this is one of my favorite films. It's just a great film.
Yeah, it is a wonderful film. I think it may have been quite ahead of its time.
Yes, it was.
When it came out, and I think it would be nice to see someone re-release that one of these days, because it is, as you say, something that really captures that whole world of suburbia, and it was a very unique film at the time.
Now you've done conducting, you've written for Broadway, and on, so many accomplishments. But is there something uniquely satisfying about film scoring for you, or is it all part of the same fabric?
No, there is something. There is something very rewarding, because when you do a film score, sometimes, not everyone, but sometimes, because you are writing and there's a story out there, you're asked to write something that normally you wouldn't write. Normally you'd be sitting at the piano and you might be writing a song, you might be writing a song for a Broadway show, but you wouldn't be writing, quote, background music in a film that takes place in 1924 Hungary or whatever. Mm-hmm. So what's kind of exciting in film scores is that you tend to do very many different types of music, and I like that challenge. I enjoyed that. That keeps me not just writing the way I normally would write, but kind of making me write differently than I would normally do.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about if film scoring has changed over the years, or the role of the film composer has changed. I'm not sure if you're aware of this article that was written in Variety several weeks ago that talked about the luster of the film composer, where it used to be right up there with editor. It seems to be relegated to the realm of sound effects more and more. There's less.
I think there's been a trend that I don't think is a good trend, and I'm hoping it changes. I think there's been a trend to use music almost like the way they use sound effects. Mm-hmm. That it almost becomes a kind of electronic background. And because of the use of electronic instruments now and all this stuff, music can now give you a lot of different sounds. Mm-hmm. And I think that directors, for some reason, which I don't understand why, shy away from the kind of thing that I like to do, which is to actually write themes for these films, and to have things that come back and that you connect the dots, so to speak, with themes. And I'm not sure why that's happened exactly. It might be because what?
It seems self-destructive for a film, because the music is the heart and soul of the film. The music and the editing is really, I think, where the film really comes together. And if you don't have a good score or a good, your film is going to hurt, because that's the first thing that, at least for me, watching movies all my life, is the score. The music is vital. Mm-hmm. It makes all the difference.
Well, I agree with you, but I will tell you that there are directors right now who don't want that, and they just want music to almost like just fill in some noise, and I think that is a problem. However, I think it's because with electronics, we've got a new toy that has just arrived, and we're still playing with it as it being a toy, as opposed to it really making music. I think slowly but surely we're going to go. The pendulum is going to swing back to where it was, and I think you're going to get more classical type, movie music.
Well, I think it might be a cultural thing, because you hear it when you turn on the radio too. There are no melodies out there anymore.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
True. That's true.
Where did the melodies go? I don't know. I mean, I when I was growing up, I liked rock and roll. I really did. Mm-hmm. And but I must say that when I'm listening to radio and you hear music from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you hear a lot of melodies. You do hear a lot of songs, rock and roll tunes, but with melodies. And then you hit upon today's world, and you just wonder, where did it go, and why is it gone? But my sense is it will be back.
Another movie from this year that is one of my absolute favorites. Is Every Little Step, and that of course chronicles the beginnings of a chorus line and mirrors that with modern day auditions for a revival. Tell me about that experience and working with Michael Bennett and everyone involved in that. Did that feel like a groundbreaking project at the time?
Well, what it felt like, which was really fantastic, was that all of the people working on that show, not of course counting Michael, had never done a show before, and so we didn't know, we didn't understand quite all of the pressure on people to write a show. All we were trying to do was write something totally new and different, and see if we couldn't write something that was really, special. But the whole workshop process made it possible for us to really hone our craft. And so it was a very exciting time of my life. And I just knew that I was in the hands of someone that really knew what he was doing, which was Michael. And I felt very secure about writing the show.
Mm-hmm. That's where your Pulitzer, that's where you won your Pulitzer from, that piece.
Right. The Pulitzer was given out to the creators of A Chorus Line, yes.
Wow. Has Broadway changed? I hear a lot about, it's a little depressing, the changing face of Broadway from the good old days there.
Well, the interesting thing that's happening on Broadway, which is really interesting, is that it's making a fortune. I mean,
mm-hmm.
And because it's making a fortune, it almost is. There's a huge contradiction on Broadway. There hasn't been a song that you can remember on Broadway for a long time. So the scores are kind of like, either through composed, where it's very much everything that they say is sung, and the songs themselves are just okay. But what's happened is the book of a musical has become so important that if a musical has a really strong book, then it almost doesn't matter what the music and lyrics are like, because the show's going to run. This is all different than years ago when it used to be boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl, but you could certainly hum all the songs. We've gone through a change there. Again, I think, I could be wrong, but I think the pendulum is going to swing, and all we're waiting for is one show to bust out with a couple of really great songs, and things will start to change again.
It seems that people are just hungry for the familiar. So the big successes are the big star led revivals and things.
Is the problem, and is probably going to get crucified for this, but is the problem these musicals based on these movies that have this trend that's been going on the last 15 years?
Well, the thing is this. The thing is this, that it's very hard to find an original musical. It's very hard to find. And producers who are making all this money are saying to themselves, there is an advantage to either bringing a show in from London, bringing in a revival, bringing in a show based on a movie, because people know the title.
Right.
And you're right. That has a significant value. I must tell you truthfully, I too am in that predicament, and the show that I'm working on is a show that's based on an old movie, which is The Nutty Professor, which is a Jerry Lewis film.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the only thing I can say to you is, when it comes to revivals, the only thing that bothers me about revivals is sometimes they revive them way too early. Way too early.
Right.
I mean, something that closed 10 years ago, I don't think warrants a revival, But that's what's happening. And again, the reason you can't really get too upset about this is because the producers are making a fortune.
Right.
So if they're making a fortune, they don't want to pretty well change the formula because it's working.
True.
That's what people want to see. So give them what they want. Give them what they want.
Yeah,
of course.
True.
Exactly.
Now you've won every award in your profession under the sun, the Emmy and the Grammy and the Oscar and the Tony and Pulitzer, and you're up for a Golden Globe this upcoming Sunday.
Right.
Does it still feel special for you, or are you still nervous about it? How are you feeling about it?
Let me tell you, I think that anytime you get a nomination, it's a big deal because when you sit down and write a score, you don't sit down going. It's not like if you were in a race. Let's say you knew that next Sunday you were going to be in a race. Well, a race means someone is going to win, someone's going to lose, and you're trying to win. This has nothing to do with awards. Awards are after the fact, meaning you do your work and you try to make it as good as you can, and then all of a sudden this other thing happens, which is you get picked in and you have this artificial race. So I'm not too excited. I'm actually very happy about getting nominated. That I was really thrilled with. But I'm very glad just to be going to the Golden Globes. And yes, I'd be thrilled to win. Don't get me wrong. It would be thrilling. It's not, having won before, I guess, I'm ready for anything. But it is exciting to be part of that gang, I must say. And I think this year, movie-wise, I think there have been some fantastic movies. So
yes,
I think this has been a really banner year for movies. Also, there's a lot of composers. Have you noticed in the last couple of years how many new names there are for composers, as opposed to 20 years ago where it was down to 5 or 6 people doing everything?
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it very much is. I think a lot of it speaks to the kind of electronic age that you're talking about too, because in the independent movement, it seems easier it seems like a more open field.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It really is. It really is.
Well, Mr. Hamlisch, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
I had so many questions for you, but a tremendous honor for both of us to speak to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And we'll be rooting for you on next Sunday.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.